In this session, we attempt to bring to you a brief synopsis of the current COVID situation in this country, along with the government's efforts of controlling the same. This is not meant to be a government bashing session like many others which are being circulated in the media as on date. However, given the current state of affairs, current precarious state of affairs, it is important that we have certain data points and numbers into perspective such that we can adequately analyze what has gone horrendously wrong and what could have been done perhaps a little better. So COVID in India, a population of 1400 million, this country is growing at a rate of 0.97% as far as its population is concerned, and all set to overtake China in 2025. We knew that this country would have far-reaching implications when it comes to a contagious disease like COVID. This virus is stealth, it's rapid, and it can overnight infect 1 million. And that's the reason why, possibly, we knew that this virus will have far-reaching implications in this country, given the asymptomatic version of the patients. And as on date, what we see is there is a total of 22.99 million infected by this virus. Not to mention the 19 million which is recovered. The fatalities are hovering around 250,000. And what's more, as on date, what we see that as per the WHO data, we have 178 deaths per million. You'd say that 19 million has recovered out of 22.99 million. Don't you think that's a great recovery rate? Yes, it is. But this virus is mutating. And with the current mutation versions of B1617, 18 and 19, days are not far that this recovery rate is going to come crashing down and the fatalities go up substantially. The start of this pandemic in India has been rather remarkable. When we had the virus literally being imported by the airborne citizens to the country, there were little or no checks at the entry points. The clumsy quarantine centers allowed the educated NRIs to escape the quarantine and infect multiple others. However, the blame for this virus to spread was put on a particular community and its religious function. The culpability for the same could not be established in the court of law. Given all the circumstances, we knew India is actually heading for a disaster as far as the COVID outbreak is concerned. This virus was all set to wreak havoc. As a knee-jerk reaction, India was plunged into a lockdown overnight. And what followed was a series of crises. Life actually grinded to a screeching halt. The daily essentials were hoarded by people who had money. There were hand sanitizer frauds, and there was little or no implementation of lockdown measures on ground. The expectation was that the state and the central government would come together to jointly fight this crisis. What we instead saw was, as usual, a political blame game started and followed to the core. Sadly enough, the countrywide clapping from the veranda, the lighting of the diyas, the candles, and banging the utensils from the terrace did not ward off the pandemic by any chance. Neither the building of the temple at Ayodhya helped the cause of stopping the pandemic. The pandemic had already spread its ugly wings in this country, and the consequences were devastating. The government, however, was still optimistic. Around 24th April 2020, government had released a statement stating that India is going to clock zero COVID cases by 16th May 2020, given the success of the lockdown around the country. However, on that particular day, India's cases peaked with 4,987 cases, which was a 7-day peak. Cases never stopped after that. It steadily increased until 17 September 2020. The country peaked with 97,894 cases. This time, luck sided India, and without any definite measures incorporated by the central or the state government, or even the public for that matter, except for in sporadic pockets like Dharavi, cases showed steady decline since 23rd October 2020. And we could see the Indian mass violating the social distancing norms at will and in mass during the festive season. Huge number of political rallies held across the country. There was a huge number of religious gatherings that happened throughout the country. Number of cases were reduced to almost 1/10, and we had overnight experts debating in WhatsApp and news channels, propounding theories like India has attained herd immunity. There were experts who claimed that because of the Indian population having exposure to a lot of pollution and bad sanitation facilities, there is auto-immunization, and the Indian mass is auto-resilient to ultimately what's a flu virus. Also, there was a theory regarding the tropical climate or the tropical heat preventing the virus from spreading. Now, all these were theories, and people lapped up these rumors, and after a while, the world media also started believing in the stories, and they started saying that, okay, yes, the cases have reduced in India. We were baffled. Everyone was baffled, but we were happy. The government also took an opportunity to be complacent. The government had more reasons to be happy because the vaccines were there. The India-made vaccines. The India-made vaccines which made India the vaccine ambassadors to the rest of the world. India had donated and exported 6.6 crores of vaccine between Jan 2021 to March 2021. Little that people realized that between this period of Jan 2021 to March 2021, the infections, the daily infections have actually doubled. But people were complacent. Vaccines were there, no matter how slow the rollout was. And political rallies and processions and religious gatherings, the Shahi Snan, the Kumbh Mela, they carried on with aplomb. The vaccines were exported and donated to 95 foreign entities across the world. And overnight, India's image shot up to be the vaccine ambassador and the provider of vaccines to the rest of the world. That's how it was projected. Between Jan 2021 to March 2021, the vaccines were getting exported while there were widespread political rallies owing to the elections. there were religious gatherings like the Kumbh Mela and the Shahi Snan, and there were election campaigns which were happening across multiple states. And it is a remarkable thing to note that all these events were potential super spreaders. But no one took a stock of the situation. No one knows the kind of damage which has been inflicted by these events, because as usual, there were no records. And this was there for every political party which had arranged the rallies at that point in time. The vaccine rollout was slow and lackadaisical. The Serum Institute did not meet the desired target of 100 million per month. They could only produce 70 million. And this difference of 30 million would come back to bite us very badly in the coming days. The tests conducted by the government were lesser because they didn't want to press the panic button right at that point in time. The numbers tested were allegedly fudged because the situation on ground, or the impact on ground, was not reflective of the numbers which were actually infected. The fatalities too. On 13th March 2021, Soumya Swaminathan made a remark at the World Health Organization Summit in Geneva that her country is sitting on a viral time bomb which can take off any moment. How her words came true in the next 45 days is rather remarkable. India is probably staring at one of the largest crises in the last 100 years in form of an emergency. Yes, this is an emergency. This is a medical emergency. Where the Indian mass feels cheated is that the central government has been building temples, has been allocating funds for parliament renovation, has been building statues. Yes, a lot of fund was allocated for vaccine production, but there were little or no focus on the medical infrastructure of the country. The fact that the medical infrastructure of this country is hardly capable of absorbing or even handling a pandemic was more than known to the government. However, there were little or no efforts to ramp up the capacity in the last 1.5 years of the pandemic. This was one of the biggest blows to the Indian masses, who today are struggling for lack of hospital beds, for the lack of drugs, for the lack of medical equipments, the lack of oxygen. And we have a situation that the medical frontline workers are in a pitiful state of affairs, who do not have enough capacity to even serve the huge surge of patients which are coming in at every moment, every hour. So, as a result, the people are perishing thick and fast now. This is the situation which has been gripping the country for a while. And it's not fear-mongering, it's ultimately a check of reality. The government is not only caught napping on the medical infrastructure, they are also caught napping on the fact that after a huge surge of vaccine exports and donations to the tune of 6.6 crores today, the Indian mass does not have vaccines to get administered. There is a huge segment of 45 plus citizens who are waiting for their second dose even as on date. 45 days have passed, and what we find is the regulations regarding administration of the vaccines are changing at a drop of a hat. So one asks the question that, is this change in duration between the first dosage and the second dosage at all having any scientific backup of data or any scientific thoughts, or is it at convenience? To conclude, this video does not intend to malign the government or spread hatred. All it does is to bring to the attention of the central government that the resilience of the mass are breaking away thick and fast. And unless they come down from that pedestal of politics and that pedestal of advertisement and actually help the pandemic impacted on ground with whatever resources they can as on date, this pandemic is not even ending in 2022. This is not fear-mongering. This is again a reality check. And if they fail to contain the pandemic by then, the Indian mass, the average Indian mass, might not forgive this government for years to come.